Hi friends, welcome to my new video, Tennis and Life Lessons. So today we'll be talking about the Australian Open 2022 and what this win means for all of us, in general, as well as all the tennis players. There are a lot of lessons from this whole tournament. Now, down the line, let's say after 5 to 10 years, if you just look at the scorecard, if you just look at the article, you'll see that, okay, all out of the big three players, Djokovic and Federer did not play the tournament. So obviously Nadal would have been the favorite and he would have won the tournament quite easily. But what we will forget to look at would be the past 6 months, before this tournament. What has happened in the past 6 months with Nadal specifically? He's 35 years old. He has suffered multiple surgeries. Last year he was out. He was on crutches as well at one time. He recently also suffered with COVID a month back. So even after all of that, he came back to the Australian Open. He was not confident himself, and his support staff, Uncle Tony, also mentioned that he did not think that Nadal could actually win this tournament, but yet he did. And also, if you look at the news nowadays, it's quite evident there that the artificial intelligence and all the betting system and everything was against Nadal in that Australian Open final, but still somehow he managed to win in the end. And obviously, it gives us a lot of life lessons as well as tennis lessons for the other players on how they have to play to beat this guy and how they have to play to beat each of these three players, Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer. Why they are champions, what makes them legends, and why is it so difficult to win a single point against them. So we'll talk about this in detail. So let's look at the lesson number one. So the lesson number one is it is better to participate and lose rather than not playing at all. So if you are Nadal and you have suffered multiple surgeries, multiple injuries, and you know that after 3 or 4 months French Open is going to arrive, which is your best chance to win another Grand Slam. All the three players alongside you are tied at 20 Grand Slams, and you have just suffered with COVID as well. So, as a normal human being, what would you think? It would have been better for Nadal probably to skip the Australian Open. He did not know whether Djokovic would play or not. He arrived in Melbourne expecting that Djokovic would play. So it's not that his decision rested on or depended on any of the other players. And he suffered from COVID as well. He knew that after 3 months in May or after 5 months in May, you have the French Open and he has the chance to win his 21st Grand Slam. So why would he risk playing at the Australian Open where he knows that this has not been his one of the most successful, Grand Slams because he has mostly lost in this Grand Slam. He had won only one Australian Open title prior to this last week's title. So any normal human being would have thought to skip the Australian Open and wait till the French Open. But then again, the lesson here is it's better to participate and lose rather than not playing at all. So who knows if Nadal would not have played and if the court would have judged in favor of Djokovic, maybe Djokovic would have been standing with the trophy and the 21st Grand Slam. So these are very small margins, very small decisions, but big decisions, small decisions, but which prove out to be really big in the context of the whole career. So down the line, down the years, if we talk about tennis after 5 years or 10 years, and let's say if Djokovic and Nadal are tied at equal number of Grand Slams, then one would always have to give credit to Nadal for playing in this tournament because very easily he could have avoided this. So it's always with Nadal. He never fails to participate. He knew that he may be losing the match, maybe in the second round, third round, but nevertheless he would get some sort of practice and some sort of belief that he could win the matches in the future tournaments. So that is why he came to Australia even after COVID. He practiced really hard, and rest is history. So that is the lesson number one here. Let's quickly go ahead. So you can see here in the Nadal's picture, he's on crutches. He was recovering from the surgery, and nobody would have expected him to win the Australian Open title, where it takes a toll on you physically. The court is slower, The guys have to run a lot, and if you saw the final, you know that Nadal had to play for 5 hours and 24 minutes. So that was just unbelievable performance from his side. The lesson number two, take your opportunities when they come, as champions cannot be out of form for long. Now, this is a very important lesson, and most of the tennis players should actually take this lesson from the big three. We have seen time and time again Nadal struggles for some time in his matches. Maybe he loses the first set a lot of times. We have seen this in recent years at the US Open, where Nadal gives away the first set, but then suddenly something changes in him and he starts playing well and he wins the rest of the remaining three sets. And it's a four-setter match. And we saw that in the Australian Open final as well. He was almost down and out, lost the first couple of sets. In the third set also, he was facing three break points and he was not playing well. None of his shots were going the correct way. But then Medvedev failed to capitalize those opportunities. And then, once Nadal is out of the situation, he was always going to win. We have seen this time and time again, and Nadal is one of the ultimate competitors. So even if it's a short, miss on your side, an unforced error, a double fault, or maybe the rain comes in and stops the game for 10 minutes, maybe there is a medical timeout, maybe there is a bathroom break, anything that can give some sort of relief to Nadal, some sort of break to Nadal to recuperate can always work in his favor. And this is what champions actually do, not just Nadal, but even Djokovic and Federer. If you give them some sort of opening, some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, they will always, capitalize and they will always make you pay. So you have to take your opportunities when they come because the situation and things do not remain same forever. And this applies to life as well. Whenever opportunities come, you do have to take it. You never know what the situation will be, after some time. And here are few examples of the point that I just mentioned. So you can see the score line here. It's Federer versus Nadal at the French Open in 2011. And you can see it's the first set. Federer has a set point here. It's 5-2 in favor of Federer. And he goes for a fancy drop shot here. He has a lot of opportunity, but he misses this one. And he could have played a decent baseline point and tried to go for a decent winner or come to the net, but he went for a fancy drop shot. I mean, no argument there. Federer plays this way. He is all about class and grace. He does try different shots, but in the context of the whole match, this proved out to be a very important point because Federer was not able to break in this game. Then he got broken in the next game and he lost the set 7-5. So can you believe it? After being ahead 5-2, he lost the set 5-7. So straight away 5 games in a row. And this is what it means when you have the opportunities, you do have to take it. Another example, this is from the Australian Open 2005 in the semi-finals versus Safin. As you can see, it's match point for Federer in the fourth set. This was quite a controversial, not controversial, but quite a close match. All both the players had many opportunities. Safin served for the sets up for the match a lot of times, but got broken in the end. But talking about this point, this is a match point for Federer, and he tried to finish it on the in the net, and he hit two good volleys on the net. But then Safin managed to hit a lob, and here you can see it seems like Federer is really struggling and he has no option other than hitting a tweener. But that's not the case. If you see the match closely, he could have played a back behind, shot, not specifically the tweener, but from his side, he could have hit a forehand or a backhand, or he could have hit another lob and it would have really put pressure on Safin to hit a volley or a smash. But he went for a tweener, maybe trying to finish it in a fancy way, and he hit the net with that ball. He was laughing after this point, but in the end it proved out to be decisive because Safin won this set, and then Safin went on to win the next set as well, and then he went on to beat Hewitt in the final. We all know that Federer was always going to be the favorite against Hewitt, but it was Safin who was the man to beat in that Australian Open, and Safin went on to win his maiden Grand Slam title in 2005. Another example, this is quite familiar and quite heartbreaking for all the Federer fans. You can see it's 8-7. Wimbledon 2019, Federer has two match points, two big serves coming up, and he was not able to take these opportunities. And when Djokovic makes a comeback after being down match points, he rarely loses a match, and he plays a different sort of game. And if you see this match, Federer also had more opportunities even after this game, but then Djokovic was clutch in those moments. And in the tiebreaker, Djokovic was flawless. He did not make any error, and he was able to win this tournament. So this is what I meant by taking your opportunities. And here as well, this is the most recent example. You can see a couple of sets already in the bag for Medvedev. It's triple break point on Nadal's serve. It's a good drop shot hit by Nadal. You can see Medvedev is far too, back behind the baseline. He has absolutely no chance of covering this shot. But even after this, he had a couple more break points, which I think he should have converted, and he should have won this championship. So again, if you don't take your opportunities against the big players, they will always come back. Lesson number three, even a single weakness in the game can prove decisive against the top players. Yes, that's very true. So, and the most important example is the one in the final that we saw. So, the only weakness I think Medvedev had in this game was in the forecourt, and that was exploited by Nadal. His backhand, forehand, serve, even the volley was very nice from Medvedev. His fitness was okay for the first 3 or 4 sets, but then it was not the same. But it's expected in a 5-hour marathon match. But his weakness was in the forecourt. Initially, Nadal was playing a rally sort of game. He was happy, playing the baseline from side to side, and it did not work out. But he had plan B, he had plan C, he tried different things, and one of those different approaches was to bring Medvedev to the net intentionally by playing short balls and low balls so that he has to get down and try to hit a good approach shot, which he was not able to do. And this proved to be decisive because he absolutely had no clue what to do in the forecourt. And this single weakness, I would say, led to the loss against Nadal, because if he would have had an opportunity to finish those points, he would have been sitting with the trophy. And similarly, there are other examples. For example, Federer's topspin backhand. This is not a weakness. I would say it's a very good backhand, but on clay, this is definitely a weakness. Because he doesn't hit that shot that with that much force. I mean, he's not a Wawrinka, he's not a Thiem, but he has a good backhand. But definitely, it's a weakness against Nadal on clay. And you can see this specific weakness has caused a lot of points, free points, given a lot of free points to Nadal. Nadal always knows that whenever he's in trouble, it's not like, Federer's backhand is always going to miss. It's not like that. It's a good backhand. But Nadal always knows that, if he's not playing well or if Federer is ahead in the game, that is the only way that Nadal can get some free points. If he serves in on that side or maybe constantly goes to Federer's backhand, and it's easy for Nadal to go to Federer's backhand because it's his natural shot. For Federer, it is quite difficult to control the topspin from Nadal, and sooner or later he has to give the point to Nadal. So that is a specific weakness that has caused a lot of defeats for Federer in French Open specifically. And here, as I already mentioned, Medvedev's weakness is his four-court game. Now you can see here that Medvedev has recently hit a drop shot, and it's quite obvious if you see all the other players. The technique is or the approach is that once you hit a drop shot, you also have to move forward in the court to cut off the volley. Now, where Medvedev is standing, it's absolutely no man's land because Nadal has a lot of options here. He can do almost anything. He sees that Medvedev is neither behind the baseline nor he's in the forecourt completely near the service line. He is sort of trying to come inside, come towards the service line, but he's not confident. He doesn't know whether he should go there or not, and that is what Nadal is looking for. So now Nadal has a lot of options here. He could hit another drop shot and make it difficult for Medvedev to reach. And even if Medvedev reaches the ball, Nadal can be quite closer to the net, and he could finish off with a volley, or else he can try for a deep slice and go to the net to finish off the volley again. So a lot of options are open for Nadal. Now, if Medvedev would have been in the apt position mentioned in the, in the green box, then also it's not that it's a, 100% point for Medvedev, but still it makes it so much more difficult for Nadal to pass him, because Nadal then has to be really accurate with his passing shot. He cannot just chip the ball like he did in this point. If you see this point, actually, if Medvedev would have been in the forecourt, he would have finished it with a volley. But because he was in no man's land, it ended up being a half volley for him and on his legs, and he was not able to control because he was not able to get down to the ball. Maybe he was facing physical issues, because you can already see that it's 2 hours and 45 minutes on the clock. So definitely something to learn for Medvedev if he has to improve in the future, that he has to play these points really, nicely. This is another one of the weakness that Djokovic previously had in his game, was his volley game. And as you can see here, it's not that much a difficult volley, but just the timing and the score line is brings so much pressure. You can see it's match point down. It's the ball is right on Djokovic's racket. He just has to hit the ball in the open court. Wawrinka is struggling to recover, but Djokovic misses the volley. And the reason being, it's not that Djokovic cannot volley, but if that is a weakness, it does, make a difference on important points. So Federer hits a great backhand, but if you try to push him on really big points, then maybe under pressure, that shot can crumble. This is what happened with Djokovic on this volley, and this is what happens sometimes with Nadal, on his forehand down the line. We all always praise the forehand down the line from Nadal, but if you closely observe, when he's really under pressure, he doesn't go for that shot too much. If he is up, or if he has a break point, he will definitely go for it. But if he's down break points, he will try to avoid that shot. So that definitely shows that he doesn't have that much confidence in that shot. So similarly for Djokovic, he doesn't have that much confidence in the volley, but this is what he has to improve. Lesson number 4. So crowd support is always subjective and cannot be criticized or judged. This is a very important point, and again we saw this. Medvedev was clearly moved by the crowd support for Nadal. He was not happy. He was, gesturing to the crowd. He was talking to the umpire that he was not happy. I do agree that some of the fans in the on the court were abusive in a sense. Some of the comments that they made from the crowd were not good, and definitely Medvedev had the right to complain to the umpire, but he should not have gestured to the crowd itself, and he could not use this as an excuse to his loss, because it's obvious that Nadal has always been the favorite. Not only Nadal, even Federer have always been the favorite. They always get support of the crowd, even though they have won 20 Grand Slams, but they always get the support of the crowd everywhere they go. So there was no doubt. Everyone knew that Nadal would get the full support of all the fans. And because of the fact that he had suffered so much the last year, he was making a comeback and he was down 2 sets to love. So definitely crowd would want, as even as a neutral crowd, they would have loved to see a five-setter. And it's understandable that some of the crowd do get excited sometimes, but as a player it's easier said than done. But as a player you have to sort of ignore that. And Djokovic is the benchmark. Djokovic is the idol. If you have to learn how to silence the crowd, if you have to learn how to ignore the crowd, Djokovic is the key player. And Medvedev has a lot of times taken inspiration from Djokovic. He has said that what would Novak do. So I think in this situation also Medvedev should have thought what would Novak do, and that was just to play his normal tennis and forget about the crowd. It's true that the crowd was also, speaking between the first and second serves and clapping on his double faults or his misses, but that happens in the heat of the moment. The in the end, it doesn't matter. If you are playing really good tennis, sooner or later you will win the match, and that is what I think Medvedev and all the other tennis players have to first accept, that crowd will always be in favor of Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, because these three guys are legends. And of course, if it's a home player playing, they would definitely favor the home player. So you have to agree, and it's not like it's only for Medvedev, but even players like Federer. I remember he has faced the same situation in US Open 2005, where the whole crowd was supporting Agassi, and they were also clapping on Federer's misses. And Agassi even apologized to Federer at the net after the match that, sorry for the crowd. But then again, Federer agreed and accepted that, that's the fact. If you are a home player, crowd is going to support you, and crowd is going to clap in on my mistakes, so that is understandable, and that is why he did not allow it to get to his game. And similarly, Nadal has also faced some of those issues. Djokovic has faced those issues a lot, many times, against Federer and Nadal. And for Djokovic, I think I would give credit to him, because it's much more difficult for Djokovic to accept that the crowd is against him rather than the other players, because the other players already know that yes, Nadal and Federer are much better players than him. For example, Medvedev, and these are the legends, so definitely crowd would favor them. But it's difficult for Djokovic to understand the fact, because Djokovic is an equally good player like Nadal and Federer, and he has achieved so much, so he also deserves some favoritism on court. So it's really difficult for him. But the way he has actually encountered it, the way he has, uh, ignored it is really tremendous, and it's quite appreciative for him. So this is the Djokovic's mental strength, as I mentioned. Now, the lesson number five is champions adjust their game in the same match while in the battlefield rather than the next match or season. It is really important, and I think the best example for this is Rafael Nadal. You could see that in the match, his plan A did not work, but he was so quick to adjust his game. I mean, it's just like there is a coach or there is somebody who's constantly feeding information to Nadal every point, every game of what he needs to do. And we all know that that's not the case. So it's his mind, his cleverness, and his constant thinking within the match that gives him such an edge. And that actually lacks with Federer as well. So Federer knows that, if his serve is not working well, maybe in the second set, in the third set, he improves his serve percentage. He gets from 50% to 70%, 75%. So that's really good. But with Nadal, he's so much able to, change his complete game. If his forehand is not working, he will try to loop it up. If his backhand is not working, he'll try to go for slice and only slice. If he is physically struggling, he will come to the net more and more. And not only his own side, but he also is very quick to pounce on, what weakness the opponent has. If the opponent is struggling physically, he'll try to stretch the rallies. If the opponent is serving really well, he would, go really back behind the baseline to return the serve, to neutralize the serve. If the opponent is lacking in the forecourt, as Medvedev did in the final, Nadal took care of that as well. So champions do have this ability to adjust their game within the same match. It's not like they will not say that today my game was not working. Maybe in the next match I'll improve on it, or maybe this is the shot that was not working for me. It's not an excuse for them. They always try to figure it out within the match, because getting the W, getting the victory is so much important to them in every single match. And this is so important because you see all the young players like, Rublev, Tsitsipas, Medvedev, and all these young players who sometimes have said that, they have nothing to lose, they can play freely, they will have a lot many more chances. But the fact is, if they are able to adjust their game within a single match, if they are down, that really changes, and that is decisive for their careers as well. Because if you go by that logic, Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic should have so much pressure on themselves, because they are all 35 years of age and they don't know whether they will be playing the next Grand Slam or not. So there would be so much pressure, yet they are able to win the Grand Slams against these young players who have more energy, who are exceptionally talented, but still they keep on losing to these three guys who are well above 30 years of age. So what is the reason for that? It's just that they play each point at its own merit. They play each point as if that was the last point. And this is the difference. The young players also have to understand that they will not get too many opportunities to beat these guys. So they have to take each opportunity when it comes. The lesson number six, against Nadal, you always have to win the match. He will never give it away. So that is quite evident. We have seen it over the years in a lot of matches that, where Nadal has a patch in between for 15 minutes, 20 minutes where he's not playing well. He'll give you a break point, he'll give you multiple break points, he will miss a few shots, but then sooner or later, he will fight back. And even if he's not playing well throughout the match, he will not give it away. He'll keep fighting on each point. Even if you are double break up, he will still keep fighting. He will show the fist pump. He will show you that he's still there until and unless you finish the match and shake hands with him at the net. He will still be there to fight for the match. And this is what I think only Nadal does is, I think Federer or Djokovic or all the other players, in some matches or the others, they have given it away after being 2 sets to love down or double breakdown. They try different shots. They go for big shots just to see if it works. But against Nadal, you never know. Even when Nadal is down, he does not leave the basics. He will always try to win his serve. He'll always try to do his routine the way he does, and he'll always look at his box with determination. So this is what we can learn from Nadal. Lesson number 7, Nadal is the ultimate competitor. We all know that 2 sets to love down or whatever it is, he always makes a comeback. And this, forgive me for this stat. This is not the most updated stat, but it's, I think 2 or 3 years back, this was the stat, but it still shows the ability of the comeback kings. So Nadal, you can see he's at the top, or was at the top. I don't know the recent stats. So 42.5% of the matches Nadal wins after losing the first set. Now, this is quite remarkable, and it just shows that Nadal never gives up. He's the ultimate competitor. He's mentally super strong, and even when he's struggling physically, he still plays the whole match. He tries never to retire from a match, and he tries to adjust his game. Anyhow, he needs to get the victory. That is the motivation that he has in the match. Lesson number 8, don't get too excited when things are going well, and vice versa. So, as I already showed a slide like this. So things are going really well here for Federer, and he has a set point. But let's not get too excited. I mean, no disrespect, but if he would have played a decent baseline point, maybe he would have won the set, and maybe he would have won the match. Who knows? Because he was playing really well. Nadal was struggling physically, I think, in the whole tournament. And Federer was really playing well. I thought this was one of the best French Opens that Federer had played in 2011. His backhand was really solid, his forehand was superb, and he had just beaten Djokovic in the previous match. In the year where Djokovic was supreme, he was world number one, he was on an unbeatable streak. So I thought, if even if the things are going really well, the basics have to be there. And you saw that even against Medvedev, he had 3 break points. There was no need for Medvedev to go for a drop shot or play any fancy shot. He could have just stayed with the baseline game and allowed Nadal to miss, or maybe won the match in a more traditional, in a more uh, normal way rather than going for big shots. Lesson number 9, not improving is going backwards. Now, this applies to all the legends of the game. If you see Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, they have improved their game so much and they are still adding new things into their game. And some of the examples I'll show here. So, as you can see, Nadal's backhand, if you see the matches of Nadal from 2005, 2004, 2007, you can clearly see that his backhand was not that good. He was hitting so much short balls from his backhand. I won't say that he was making errors, but he was really putting it in the middle of the court and not that much deep. So any aggressive player, even Federer or the likes of Songa or Davidenko or Roddick, all those players were able to take advantage of this shot. They could, come to the net after hitting a good approach shot on Nadal's backhand. But the way he has improved it, especially the down the line and the cross court backhand, especially the power that he gets on the backhand, is amazing. And you even saw that in the match against Medvedev in the last 2 sets, in the fourth set and in the fifth set, you could see Medvedev was actually worried or he was, in doubt whether he should go to Nadal's backhand or not, because Nadal was not only using his short slice, but he was also hitting topspin backhands quite cleanly, and he hit a lot of winners unexpectedly down the line from his backhand side. So he has really improved this shot, and the best, example is Wimbledon 2008 and even the French Open 2008. Against Federer, I think Nadal's backhand was supreme. And after that, I don't think Nadal's backhand has, deteriorated. It has always kept on improving and is one of the very good shots improvements in the game. We all know about Djokovic. Just watch the US Open 2007 final against Federer. Djokovic had so many chances to close out the first set. He had triple set point, but he made couple of consecutive double faults. He was just nowhere on his serve. His toss was not good. He was making so many double faults in his career, but then he improved the serve, and now it's really a weapon. And we can all count on Djokovic that if he's serving well, and if it's a big point, he will always come up with a big serve. So another improvement for Roger Federer as well. I think he improved his backhand in 2006. Before that, he was mostly going for his slice, but if you see in 2005 end of the season and 2006 onwards, his backhand was really improved. And then again in 2017, we saw what the backhand can do when he won the Grand Slams again. And even the saber. So we all saw Federer and saber he introduced, in 2015, I think, where he had not won a Grand Slam for 2 or 3 years. So that just shows that even after 30 years of age, you have not won Grand Slams. You don't need to actually improve. You could just retire. I mean, he had won it all the slams. He had won so much, but still he wanted to improve, and that is what it means. And even Federer himself has said that not improving is like going backwards. And he tried to constantly innovate, tried to bring something. He knew that he could not beat Djokovic from the baseline, so he tried to introduce the saver just for the fact that he could shorten up the points somewhat. And it did play out in the end. It doesn't matter where how much successful the shot was. The important aspect here is that he tried to improve, he tried to bring something new because he wanted to improve. So that is really the lesson here. And the lesson number 10, the last lesson, is do the basics right. So we all know that, when things are not going well or when things are going too well, we do get excited or we do get disappointed. And in both the scenarios, we try to do something different and we forget about the basics. This is something that we can clearly learn from Nadal and this year's Australian Open 2022, that, Nadal never left his basics even after the recovery from COVID, even after the multiple surgeries that he had. He constantly kept practicing. He kept the same intensity in his practice. And even in the match, even when he was losing, he kept, serving well, kept applying the strategy that he had, kept trying different things, but not overdoing things or not leaving the basics. So he had to improve his first serve percentage. He did improve that in the match. He had to cut down on the errors on the backhand. He did that. He started hitting the backhand down the line. He started using all his shots more and more, and he kept fighting for each point. And not only in this match, in all the matches, if you constantly see Nadal, even when he loses, you can never say that he was not doing his basics right or maybe he was playing badly. You could always say that the opponent played better, but you could never say that Nadal played really bad, because he always tried to do the basics right, and this is very important. And I think this is one of the key that we should learn from Nadal in general, that no matter what, if you get your first serves percentage good, if you are able to finish the points at the net, if you are able to dictate play when your serve is good, if you are able to constantly be in the rally, try to move the player, the opponent around, no matter how good the opponent is playing, you still will have chances. If you can get to 4 all or 5 all or 6 all in the tiebreak, who knows what happens? Maybe you get one or two winners and things change. So always keep doing the basics right, and maybe then even if you're not playing well, sooner or later your form will come back and you will win in the end. So this was the video, guys. Thanks for watching.